Hey guys, welcome to week 8 of our e-learning language arts class. So this week we'll be working on a narrative task essay. Actually, we'll be working on two narrative tasks. Okay, so this week is actually pretty straightforward and pretty simple, I think. Typically, narrative tasks, assignments, and narrative task prompts are a little bit more straightforward and a little more simple to complete than our research simulation task and literary analysis task essays, because you don't have to necessarily cite evidence directly from the sources. And usually with narrative tasks, you're really only working from one source, and it's fiction, which I feel like usually you guys feel a little bit more comfortable working with. Okay. So for week 8, you'll be doing two narrative tasks. One is based off a video, which describes a summary of a story, and we'll also be reading a text called Raymond's Run, which we won't be looking into until Wednesday. So let me just give you an overview of what you're going to do each day, just really briefly. I'll be back on here on Wednesday with another lesson for Raymond's Run and for, the assignments for the rest of the week. So for week 8, day 1, which is today, you will be watching 4 short video clips. Okay, these 4 video clips are all about narrative writing. Okay, so it's like lesson videos on narrative writing, but they kind of go into the specifics a little bit differently than one another. So you have to watch all 4. So for day 1, you're going to watch these 4 videos just by clicking the links. And you can also, if you'd like, download the videos by opening it up and clicking it to download. But also, these videos are all on our week 8 Padlet page, where you can also download all the work from in case Unified Classroom isn't working that well. Or if you prefer to look at things all at once on Padlet, you're more than welcome to come on here to eLearning Week 8. So these are the 4 videos that you're going to watch. And then for each video that you watch, you have to take notes on this Word document for your Cornell notes. Okay, so your Cornell notes document looks like this. I've set up on this one document, okay, this one open Word document, I've set up your 4 Cornell notes pages. And I even labeled them with the title of each video that you have to watch for you already. So you just need to fill out your notes and your thoughts based off what you watch for each video. Okay. So that's it for day 1. So each of the 4 notes that you take for Cornell notes pages that you take for the 4 videos is worth 25 points. So make sure you fill out the entire document so you get 100 points in Power School for taking notes on the videos. The videos that you watch in day 1 are going to help you write your narrative tasks on Tuesday, and then again when you do your narrative on Friday. Okay, so for Tuesday, you're going to watch another video, and this video is actually, you're going to listen to a woman summarize the synopsis of a story called Jackpot. Okay, the video is super short, it's less than 2 minutes long, and you're just going to listen as the woman describes what the story is all about. Okay, so based off what she tells you the story is about is what you're going to do your narrative writing on for Tuesday. So for Tuesday, you only have one document to submit, and it's your narrative task essay. Okay, so this is the writing prompts. When you open up here to week 8, day 2, you just download the document, and it'll open right up to the actual essay. Okay, you're going to have the writing prompts, and you just have to type right into the document, and you're going to continue the story. Okay, whatever it's asking you to do. Remember, with narrative writing, it's either going to ask you to continue the story with the same details, or it might ask you to rewrite the story. Okay, you have to pay close attention to what the point of view is that it's asking you for in the writing prompts. I did not give you specifically a graphic organizer like I usually do for your essays. If you want to work on a graphic organizer, it is available to you in Padlet. Okay, so if you see here in Padlet, we have the jackpot essay, but we also have the graphic organizer if you want to outline your thoughts for your story first. Okay, got the essay prompt here for jackpot. And then you also have for day 5, again, I didn't give you the graphic organizer and unified classroom, but if you'd like to work on it to help you outline your story first, you have it here for Raymond's Run as well. So for day 2, which is tomorrow, which is Tuesday, you'll be working on this video, and then you're going to continue the story by answering to the essay prompts. So Monday and Tuesday, just one document to submit. For Wednesday, you will be reading Raymond's Run. Again, I'll be back on here on Wednesday to do a read aloud with you if that's what you would prefer, and I'll record a video for that as well. And then you'll have 3 documents to submit, which is 2 grades in Power School. Okay, so the first thing you'll have to do is read Raymond's Run, and then as you're reading it, you're going to do a notice and note fiction graphic organizer, which you guys are quite familiar with at this point, for fiction. Okay, so you do not have to fill out the entire graphic organizer. You're just selecting 3 that you found while you were reading. You're going to cite it in the first box, and then you're going to answer the question about it in the second box. Other than the notice and note for Wednesday, you will also be filling out a steel graphic organizer on one of the characters from Raymond's Run. Again, these are documents and graphic organizers that you're familiar with. So I labeled it for you already for Raymond's Run. It's up to you to select which character you want to talk about. But remember, you're probably going to want to pick one of the main characters or the protagonist, because it's going to help you when you're going to write your narrative essay. Because remember, you're going to have to continue the details from the story. So if you know that a character from Raymond's Run is characterized in a specific way, then you would want to continue that characterization as you're writing your narrative story. So these 2 documents, the notice and note and the steel, are worth 100 points together. The steel is worth 60 points. The notice and note is worth 40 points. Together, it would be 100 points. And then lastly, you also have your Raymond's Run questions. Okay, so if you've noticed a pattern here, every time we read a text or a video, whatever sources we're using for our essay, you have to answer questions about it. So there are, as usual, 5 multiple choice questions. Please pay attention to the fact that they're worth 12 points each. If you answer them incorrectly, you're losing 12 points for each multiple choice. And then lastly, at the bottom, we have 1 open-ended response question, and it's asking you to write a minimum of 3 paragraphs. Make sure you're being very thorough as you answer this open-ended response question using race. You're restating, answering, citing, and explaining. Instead of writing 3 paragraphs, you could just cite 3 pieces of evidence in your 1 long paragraph. Okay, so it's up to you how you want to set it up. Just please make sure you're being thorough and citing evidence, at least 3 pieces of evidence from the text. Some of you have been choosing to only answer the multiple choice and not answer the open-ended, which means you're losing a total of 40 points, which means you can only get a possibility out of 60 points on the multiple choice. And if you get some of the multiple choice wrong, then you're definitely getting a failing grade. So make sure you take your time with answering these questions for the text. Okay, so those are the 3 assignments that'll be due for Wednesday. And then Thursday, we have our usual vocabulary. You're using the vocabulary collector. Again, you're super familiar with this guy. You're just picking 4 words from the list, part of speech and definition, writing 2 of your own original sentences with context clues, 3 synonyms and 3 antonyms, and you're either drawing a drawing for this vocabulary, or you're selecting a photo from Google Images that represents the word that you selected. Okay, so you're just picking 4 words of your choosing. Again, these words, if you see, it tells you what paragraph they're from. A lot of these words are actually footnotes in the text. So you can either just take the definition and part of speech from the footnote, or you can just Google it or go to dictionary.com or thesaurus. So that's vocabulary for Thursday. And lastly, on Friday, we have another narrative task, writing prompt. This one is about Raymond's Run. So again, you will have to have read Raymond's Run on Wednesday, and then you're going to use your graphic organizers to help you continue the story and write the story from another character's point of view. So this is actually asking you to retell the story. Again, I won't go into too much detail because we can talk about this later in the week on Wednesday. But this has been an overview of just what you have to do this week. Week 8, we're doing narrative task. 2 essays, vocabulary, notice and note, steal, and your questions, multiple choice and open-ended. And then for Monday today, you'll be taking notes on narrative writing. Okay? So let's just do an example of what it would look like for you to fill out your Cornell notes page for your notes for the 4 videos. So you're just going to right click and open in a new tab, the video. So this is video number 1, which again is already graded on our Cornell notes page that you will download from day 1, week 8. Okay, again, looks like this. As you're watching the video, you're going to stop and think about the video and think about what they're saying, and then you're going to take notes on it. Okay, so I'm just going to write my name here. You know, my homeroom is 207. So I write 206. And today is May 11th. And then this is asking for an essential question. So when you're when you're going to write the question, which is an essential question for your notes, you're just writing down, like, what is it that you're trying to find out? Like, what are you reading or watching? What is the information you're trying to learn? So in this scenario, we want to know how to do narrative writing. So we can just say how to do a narrative writing task, let's say. Let's say, how do you do? Make it into more of a formal question. How do you complete a narrative writing task? There you go. That sounds a little bit better. How do you complete a narrative writing task? So that's going to be our main question as we're taking notes. So let's listen to what the video says.
Today, we're going to look at the narrative writing task. What is the narrative writing task, you might ask? In the narrative writing task, you will read half of a story. Your job will be to continue it to the end. From that half of the story, you will use the information you learned to direct the rest of your narrative. The objective is to finish the story, so you'll have to find the resolution. You can think of this as Chapter 2, using Chapter 1, or the first part of the reading, to guide you.
Okay, so just based off of that first slide that the video goes over, I'm going to stop and take notes. So we can either on the left-hand side of our Cornell notes write a question that we have, or write the main idea of what we learned so far. So just based off of that one slide, it really just tells us, like, what is narrative writing? What does it usually ask us to do? So I'm just going to write, like, what does narrative tasks ask? Let's say, what does a narrative task ask us to do? That's my question. Okay, so the answer to that, based off what he just said there in the first 30 seconds, is that usually a narrative task will ask us to either continue a story or rewrite a story. Okay, so that's basically it, right? Our objective is to finish the story. Let's keep going.
Or the first part of the reading, to guide you. How can I write an excellent narrative continuation? Continuation just means that the story is going to resume. When we write a continuation, we're going to resume the story from the moment it left off. So, for example, if we're on page 3, we will continue at page 3. This means you don't have to retell the information from the story or summarize it. We already know. Instead, you can reference or build off of it to expand upon your narrative. For example, if you're playing Super Mario and you click continue, if you're on level 5, you'll be confused if you start off at level 1. Continue means to resume from the place that you last ended.
Okay, so based off that last slide, it's explaining to us, like, okay, well, how would we continue a story? So let's say on the left-hand side, I'm going to write continuing a story, since that's really what it's asking you to do. Continuing a story is the main idea of this slide, and I'm just going to write a note about it. When continuing a story, it isn't just about retelling every single detail from the story, but those details should be continued as you continue writing your story. Right? So it's saying you have to pay attention to like the important details in the story, like the characterization of the characters, the setting, and things like that. So continuing a story is just a point of reference. You're just not retelling everything word for word. You're just building off of it. So let me write building off the original story. Okay, so I'm just going to keep going.
Class ended. So the first step. In the narrative, before we write, we need to identify the following information so we can expand upon it in our writing. We do not want to change any of the information that we have learned, as changing the story will confuse the reader. So as we read, we're going to want to find the characters, including the protagonist and antagonist. We're going to want to identify the conflict, know where the setting is, and figure out if it's in first or third person. We don't want to change any of those things. So, for example, if the story is from Leonardo's perspective, we're not going to want to change it to Michelangelo. It wouldn't make any sense and would confuse the reader. If the setting changed dramatically, we'd also be very confused. We want to keep all information intact as we write.
All right, so this slide is actually pretty important, right? It's telling us what are the most important details to include when you are continuing or rewriting a narrative. So this is saying, all right, important details, let's say, to include. That's the idea of this next part of my notes, to include in a narrative. So just like it's outlined in the bullet points in the slide, he's saying things that you need to consider as you're reading the text that you're going to use for your essay. Think about who the main characters are, like the protagonist and antagonist. What is the problem in the story that the characters are having? What's the conflict? Where does this take place? What's the setting? And what point of view is it written in? Is it written in the first person perspective of one of the main characters in the story and they're telling their own story? Or is it in third person where the narrator tells the story for our characters? Okay, so important details include, must include details from the story like the characters, characterization, conflict, resolution. Well, actually resolution is not as much. Conflict, setting, and point of view. These details must be continued in the story so that the reader understands. I don't know. Okay. All right, guys. So I'm not going to continue doing the entire video because then in that case, I'll have done all your work for you. But this is just an idea of how you're filling out the left and right hand sides of your Cornell notes and how to ask yourself that essential question. Okay, so remember the essential question is, okay, what is the point of these notes? So that like if you have to go back to your notes, all you have to do is read your essential question. It's kind of like the title, except you're putting it into a complete sentence, right? A complete question. So remember the left-hand side is for you to just label the notes that you're going to write on your right-hand side. You could either make it into a question or just write a little like heading, a little main idea. And on the right-hand side, I'm just putting my thoughts into my own words, okay? So you're going to continue to watch the whole video and you're going to take all your notes and Cornell notes. And then at the bottom, you're going to summarize, okay? When you summarize, it really just has to be like one sentence. If you want to write a little bit more, that's fine. But basically, you're going to look back at your note on your notes at the end, and you're just going to be like, all right, so what was this mainly about? Oh, okay, so let me look back at even my headings. What does a narrative task ask us to do? Continuing a story. Important details to include in a narrative. So if I could summarize even just my notes so far, I would say something like, this video was giving us important information on how to write a narrative story and what must be included when we answer to the essay prompts. I don't know, something along those lines. And I'm not even done yet. I'm only like a quarter of the way done with the video, but I already know what more or less what this is all about. Okay, so this is how you're going to do your Cornell notes. This document, oops, I just realized I wrote it on the wrong one. So here, let me change the title of this one. Hee hee, silly me. There you go. This is for the first video called the narrative writing task. So this is how you're going to do your notes. This is just for one video though. So this is only worth 25 points as I watch this quick 5-minute video. You have to do this for all 4 videos that you watch. You do not have to fill out the entire thing. Please don't feel like you have to. Just fill out whatever, just pause every few minutes and write down what you learned if it's something really important that you think you'll need to know. So guys, this is important to do because when it's time for you to actually write your narrative tomorrow and on Friday, you don't have to rewatch all 4 videos. You just briefly look back at your notes and be like, oh, okay, what was important for me to include? And then you can just go back to these notes that you took and you'll remember. Okay, it's a good way to refresh your memory, which is the whole point of taking nice, organized Cornell notes. Okay, and guys, you're familiar with Cornell notes. We've been doing them all year round. Okay, and that's pretty much it, guys. Okay, so I'll be back here to give you a lesson on Wednesday as well. I'm going to do a read aloud of Raymond's Run, and we'll practice a little bit of actually writing out a narrative story. Okay, that's it for now. See you guys soon. Bye-bye.